My name is Captain James Merrick, and I have spent my life at sea, commanding ships through both calm and treacherous waters. The ocean has always been my home, a place of beauty and danger that I have come to respect and understand. But nothing could have prepared me for the encounter I had in the summer of 2021, an encounter that would haunt my dreams and alter the course of my life forever. This is the story of the Kraken's Wrath. I was the captain of the Sea Voyager, sturdy vessel used primarily for deep-sea fishing. My crew was a tight-knit group of seasoned sailors who trusted me implicitly. We had faced storms, mechanical failures, and near shipwrecks together, always emerging stronger and more united. But this time, our journey would test us in ways we could never have imagined. We set sail from the port of Reykjavik, Iceland, on a bright and clear morning, our destination the remote waters off the coast of Greenland. The fishing season had been poor, and we hoped that venturing further north would yield better catches. The sea was calm, and the wind filled our sails as we made our way into the vast, open ocean. The first few days were uneventful. We caught some fish, shared stories, and enjoyed the serenity of the sea. But as we ventured further into the Arctic waters, the weather began to change. The skies darkened, and a chill settled over the ship. A sense of unease crept over us, an unspoken fear that something was watching us from the depths. One evening, as we prepared to lower our nets, the sea suddenly erupted around us. Massive tentacles, each as thick as a tree trunk, rose from the water and wrapped around the ship. The crew screamed in terror as the Kraken, a creature of legend and nightmares, emerged from the ocean. The Kraken's eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence, and its beak-like mouth opened to emit a deafening roar. The ship rocked violently as the creature tightened its grip, threatening to crush us. I shouted orders, but the crew was paralyzed with fear. With a surge of adrenaline, I grabbed a harpoon and aimed for one of the tentacles. The harpoon struck true, causing the Kraken to release its grip momentarily. I ordered the crew to cut the lines and set the ship free, but the creature was relentless. It attacked again, pulling the ship down into the water. The Sea Voyager was being dragged into the abyss, and I knew we had to act quickly. I took the helm and steered the ship towards the shallower waters, hoping to escape the Kraken's reach. The crew fought valiantly, cutting tentacles and firing harpoons, but the creature's strength was overwhelming. As the ship lurched and creaked under the strain, I felt a surge of determination. I would not let my crew perish at the hands of this monster. I ordered the men to rig the explosive charges we kept for emergencies, hoping to create a distraction. The crew worked frantically, setting the charges along the ship's hull. With a final prayer, I detonated the charges. The explosion rocked the ship, and the Kraken recoiled in pain. The water around us churned with blood and debris as the creature released its grip and disappeared into the depths. We were battered and bruised, but we were alive. The Sea Voyager limped back to Reykjavik, the crew shaken but grateful to have survived. We shared our story with the authorities, who were skeptical but intrigued. The legend of the Kraken had always been a tale told by sailors, but now we had proof that the monster was real. The encounter changed us all. The crew disbanded, unable to face the sea again. I too left the life of a sailor behind, unable to shake the memory of the Kraken's wrath. The ocean, once my home, had become a place of nightmares. I took up work as a maritime consultant, sharing my knowledge and experience with those who still brave the waters. But the memory of the Kraken haunted me, a constant reminder of the power and mystery of the sea. Years later, I received a call from a group of researchers who had heard my story. They were planning an expedition to the Arctic waters, hoping to study the Kraken and understand its origins. They asked for my help, and despite my fear, I agreed. The expedition was a chance to confront my demons and seek closure. We set sail on a state-of-the-art research vessel, equipped with the latest technology. The crew was a mix of scientists and sailors, all eager to uncover the truth about the Kraken. As we reached the remote waters, the same sense of unease settled over us. The ocean was calm, but the air was thick with anticipation. We deployed underwater drones and sensors, scanning the depths for any sign of the creature. Days passed with no sightings, and the crew grew restless. But one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the kraken emerged once more. The massive tentacles rose from the water and the creature's eyes locked onto the ship. This time, we were prepared. The researchers activated the sonic deterrents, creating a barrier of sound waves that disoriented the kraken. The creature thrashed and roared, but it could not breach the barrier. We observed and documented the kraken's behavior, gaining valuable insights into its nature. As the creature retreated, I felt a sense of closure. The kraken was not just a monster. It was a part of the ocean's ecosystem, a creature that commanded respect and fear. The expedition was a success, and we returned with a wealth of knowledge. The kraken remains a legend, but it is also a reminder of the mysteries that lie beneath the surface. My encounter with the kraken changed my life, but it also taught me the importance of facing the unknown with courage and curiosity. And as I look out at the ocean, I am reminded of the kraken's wrath and the enduring power of the sea. The legend lives on, a testament to the wonders and dangers that still await us in the depths. My name is Ethan Crow, and I am a member of the Navajo Nation. Growing up, I was always fascinated by the stories and legends passed down through generations. The elders spoke of ancient spirits, sacred rituals, and dark curses that could bring misfortune to anyone who dared to trespass into forbidden territories. Among these tales, the one that stood out the most was that of the Skinwalker, a malevolent witch capable of transforming into any animal it desired. The Skinwalker was a creature of pure evil, an abomination that had once been a respected medicine man before turning to the dark arts. The legend warned that those who encountered a skinwalker would face dire consequences, as these beings were known to use their powers for malevolent purposes. As a child, I dismissed these stories as mere folklore, but as I grew older, I began to realize that there was more to these tales than met the eye. It was the summer of 2020 when I experienced the terror of the Skinwalker firsthand. I was living in a small village near the edge of the Navajo reservation, working as a ranger tasked with protecting the land and its inhabitants. The job was challenging but rewarding, and I took great pride in preserving the natural beauty of our ancestral home. One evening, I received a call from a local rancher named Thomas Werewolf. He sounded panicked and distraught, claiming that something was killing his livestock. He had lost several sheep and goats over the past week, their bodies mutilated and left to rot. He feared that a wild animal was responsible, and he needed my help to track it down. I drove out to Thomas's ranch, a remote property nestled deep within the reservation. As I arrived, I could see the fear in his eyes. He led me to the fields where the attacks had occurred, and the sight that greeted me was horrifying. The ground was stained with blood, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. The animals' bodies were mangled beyond recognition, their throats torn out and their innards strewn across the ground. Thomas explained that he had heard strange noises at night, owls and growls that didn't belong to any known animal. He also mentioned seeing shadows moving in the distance, but whenever he tried to investigate, he found nothing. I promised him that I would do everything in my power to find the culprit and put an end to the terror. That night, I set up a series of motion-activated cameras around the ranch, hoping to capture any evidence of the predator. I also stayed on the property, keeping watch with the rifle by my side. The hours passed slowly, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Around midnight, I heard a faint noise coming from the far side of the field. I grabbed my flashlight and cautiously made my way towards the source of the sound. As I approached, I saw movement in the shadow, something large and fast, darting between the trees. I raised my rifle, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, the creature stepped into the beam of my flashlight, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. The creature was tall and gaunt, its body covered in matted fur. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its mouth was filled with sharp, jagged teeth. It stood on two legs, but its posture was hunched and twisted, as if it were barely able to support its own weight. The Skinwalker. I raised my rifle and fired, but the creature moved with incredible speed, disappearing into the darkness before I could take aim. I chased after it, determined to put an end to the threat, but the forest seemed to swallow the light of my flashlight, leaving me disoriented and lost. I could hear the creature's footsteps all around me, but I could not see it. After what felt like an eternity, I found my way back to the ranch, exhausted and shaken. Thomas was waiting for me, his face pale with fear. I told him what I had seen, and his expression grew even more grim. He explained that the Skinwalker was not just a wild animalet, was a powerful witch that had the ability to transform into any creature it desired. Killing it would not be easy, and we would need the help of the elders to lift the curse. The next day, we traveled to the home of Chief Running Bear, a respected elder and medicine man. We explained our situation, and he agreed to help us. He performed a series of rituals, chanting ancient prayers and burning sacred herbs to cleanse the land of the Skinwalker's presence. He also gave us protective charms to wear, instructing us to never take them off. That night, we returned to the ranch, armed with our charms and a renewed sense of purpose. We took turns keeping watch, our eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. As the hours passed, the tension grew, but the forest remained silent. Just before dawn, we heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching the ranch. The Skinwalker emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with malevolence. It snarled, baring its teeth, and lunged towards us. But this time, we were ready. Thomas and I stood our ground, our protective charms glowing with a faint, blue light. The Skinwalker recoiled, hissing in pain as it tried to breach the barrier. Chief Running Bear began chanting, his voice growing louder and more powerful with each word. The Skinwalker thrashed and howled, but it could not withstand the combined strength of our defenses. With a final, deafening scream, the Skinwalker dissolved into a cloud of black smoke, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. The curse had been lifted, and the land was once again free from the creature's malevolent influence. In the days that followed, the attack ceased, and life returned to normal. The villagers were grateful, and Thomas's ranch was no longer plagued by the horrors of the Skinwalker. I continued my work as a ranger, but the experience left a lasting impression on me. The legend of the Skinwalker was more than just a story, it was a reminder of the dark forces that still lurked in the shadows of our world. As I look back on that summer, I am grateful for the strength and courage of my friends and the wisdom of the elders. The encounter with the Skinwalker taught me to respect the old ways, and to never underestimate the power of the unknown. The legends of my people are not just tales to be told, they are a testament to the mysteries and wonders that still exist in the world. And as long as there are those who believe, the stories of the Skinwalker will continue to be passed down through generations, a reminder of the thin line between myth and reality. My name is Dr. Sarah Whitaker, and I am an anthropologist specializing in the study of human origins and ancient cultures. Over the years, my work has taken me to some of the most remote and mysterious places on Earth, but none were as enigmatic as the Himalayas. In the winter of 2021, I embarked on an expedition to the highest mountain range in the world, searching for evidence of the elusive creature known as the Yeti, also called the abominable snowman. The Yeti has long been a subject of fascination and fear. Descriptions of the creature vary, but most accounts depict it as a large, ape-like being, covered in white fur, roaming the icy peaks and deep valleys of the Himalayas. Skeptics dismiss the Yeti as a myth, a product of folklore and imagination. But countless sightings and unexplained tracks suggest there may be more to the legend than mere superstition. Our expedition was sponsored by the International Anthropological Society, and our team consisted of seasoned mountaineers, scientists, and local guides. We set out from the city of Kathmandu, Nepal, heading towards the remote region of the Khumbu Valley, near Mount Everest. The journey was arduous, fraught with treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather, but our resolve was unwavering. As we ascended higher into the mountains, the landscape transformed into a frozen wilderness, a stark contrast to the bustling streets of Kathmandu. The air grew thinner, and the temperatures plummeted, but the breathtaking beauty of the Himalayas was a constant source of inspiration. We camped in small villages along the way, relying on the hospitality of the Sherpa people, who shared their knowledge and stories of the Yeti. One evening, while we were staying in the village of Namche Bazaar, an elderly Sherpa named Pemba approached me with a story. He claimed to have encountered the Yeti as a young man, describing it as a towering figure with glowing eyes and an eerie howl that echoed through the mountains. Pemba's account was detailed and compelling, filled with emotion and reverence. He warned us to be cautious and respectful, as the Yeti was considered a guardian of the mountains, a spirit of the wild. The next day, we continued our ascent, reaching the base camp of Mount Everest. The sheer size of the mountain was overwhelming, a testament to the power and majesty of nature. We spent several days acclimatizing to the altitude, preparing for the final leg of our journey to the remote valleys where Yeti sightings were most frequent. One night, as we huddled around a campfire, our lead guide, Tenzing, pointed out strange tracks in the snow. The prints were enormous, much larger than those of any known animal in the region. The tracks led into a dense forest, disappearing into the shadows. Tenzing believed they belonged to the Yeti and urged us to follow them at first light. The next morning, we set out at dawn, following the tracks through the forest. The journey was grueling, the snow deep and the air frigid, but the prospect of discovering evidence of the Yeti kept us moving. The tracks led us to a secluded valley, surrounded by towering peaks and blanketed in snow. As we approached, we heard a low, rumbling growl that sent shivers down our spines. We stopped in our tracks, hearts pounding, as the sound grew louder. Suddenly, a massive figure emerged from the trees, covered in thick, white fur. It was the Yeti, standing over 8 feet tall, with powerful limbs and piercing eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. The creature stared at us, its expression unreadable, as if it were assessing whether we were friend or foe. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The Yeti and our team were locked in a silent standoff, the air heavy with tension. Then, with a swift and graceful movement, the Yeti turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving us in stunned silence. We quickly gathered our senses and followed the Yeti, keeping a respectful distance. The creature led us deeper into the valley, to a hidden cave nestled among the rocks. The entrance was covered with ancient symbols and carvings, suggesting that the cave had long been considered a sacred place. Inside the cave, we found evidence of the Yeti's presence bones, animal hides, and primitive tools. It was a living space, carefully maintained and organized. The discovery was monumental, providing the first tangible proof of the Yeti's existence and its intelligence. We spent several days documenting our findings, taking photographs and samples for further analysis. The Yeti remained elusive, but we could sense its presence, watching us from the shadows. We were intruders in its domain, and we made sure to treat the area with the utmost respect. As we prepared to leave the valley, Tenzing shared a final piece of wisdom. He explained that the Yeti was more than just a creature, it was a symbol of the unknown. A reminder that the world still holds many mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The Yeti represented the wild, untamed spirit of the mountains, a guardian of nature that commanded both fear and reverence. The journey back to Kathmandu was filled with reflection and awe. We had set out to find the Yeti, and we had succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. The discovery would change the course of anthropological research. challenging our understanding of human evolution and the natural world. The legend of the Yeti is no longer just a story, it is a testament to the enduring mysteries of our planet and the awe-inspiring power of nature. As an anthropologist, I am humbled by the experience and grateful for the opportunity to witness such a profound part of our world's history. The Yeti of the Himalayas remains a symbol of the unknown, a guardian of the mountains, and a reminder that there is always more to discover in the vast and wondrous world we call home. My name is Maria Rivera, and I grew up in a small village in the mountains of Puerto Rico. It was a peaceful place, surrounded by lush forests and clear streams. The people in our village lived simple lives, tending to their farms and animals. However, there was always an undercurrent of fear that rippled through our community, a fear rooted in the legend of the chupacabra. The chupacabra, or goatsucker, was a creature that haunted our nightmares. It was said to be a grotesque beast, part reptile and part mammal, with sharp fangs and glowing red eyes. The chupacabra was known for preying on livestock, draining their blood, and leaving their lifeless bodies behind. The stories of the chupacabra have been passed down through generations, and while some dismissed it as mere folklore, others believed in its existence wholeheartedly. In the summer of 2020, strange occurrences began to plague our village. Livestock were found dead, their bodies mutilated and drained of blood. The villagers were terrified, convinced that the chupacabra had returned. My family owned a small farm on the outskirts of the village, and we, too, began to experience the horrors that had befallen our neighbors. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, my father, Carlos, and I went out to check on our animals. The air was thick with tension, and an eerie silence had settled over the farm. As we approached the barn, we were met with a gruesome sight. Several of our goats lay dead, their bodies torn apart, and their blood pooled on the ground. My father cursed under his breath, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "We need to do something, Maria," my father said, his voice trembling with anger and fear. "We can't let this monster continue to terrorize our village." Determined to protect our farm and our community, my father and I decided to keep watch that night. Armed with a rifle and a flashlight, we took turns patrolling the perimeter of our property. The hours passed slowly, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. It was just after midnight when I heard a strange noise coming from the edge of the forest. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and cautiously made my way towards the sound. As I approached, I saw movement in the shadow, something large and fast, darting between the trees. My heart pounded in my chest as I raised the flashlight, illuminating the creature. What I saw defied explanation. The chupacabra stood before me, its eyes glowing red and its mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth. Its body was covered in scaly, reptilian skin, and it moved with an unnatural, predatory grace. For a moment, I was frozen with fear, unable to look away from the creature's malevolent gaze. The chupacabra let out a low, guttural growl, and I knew I had to act quickly. I raised the rifle and fired, but the creature moved with incredible speed, disappearing into the darkness before I could take aim. I chased after it, determined to protect my family and our farm. But the forest seemed to swallow the light of my flashlight, leaving me disoriented and lost. After what felt like an eternity, I found my way back to the farm, exhausted and shaken. My father was waiting for me, his face pale with fear. I told him what I had seen, and his expression grew even more grim. He believed that the chupacabra was not just an animal, it was a supernatural being, a manifestation of dark forces that had been unleashed upon our village. The next day, we sought the help of Don Alejandro, a respected elder and shaman. We explained our situation, and he agreed to perform a cleansing ritual to banish the chupacabra and protect our land. That evening, Don Alejandro arrived at our farm, carrying an assortment of herbs, candles, and sacred objects. The ritual began with a prayer, invoking the spirits of our ancestors to aid us in our struggle. Don Alejandro burned the herbs, the fragrant smoke filling the air, and chanted in a language that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the earth. He drew symbols in the dirt, creating a protective circle around our property. As the ritual continued, the atmosphere grew charged with energy. The air seemed to hum with a strange, otherworldly power. Suddenly, a chill swept through the farm, and we heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. The chupacabra had returned, drawn by the ritual. The creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes blazing with anger. It snarled and lunged towards us, but it was stopped by the invisible barrier created by Don Alejandro's magic. The chupacabra howled in frustration, clawing at the air as if trying to break through. Don Alejandro's chanting grew louder and more intense, his voice echoing through the night. The creature writhed and twisted, its form flickering like a shadow in the wind. With a final, powerful incantation, Don Alejandro thrust his staff towards the chupacabra, and the creature let out a deafening scream. The chupacabra's body convulsed, and then, with a blinding flash of light, it disintegrated into a cloud of black smoke. The air was filled with the acrid smell of burning sulfur, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the chupacabra was gone. The ritual was over, and the farm was enveloped in a profound silence. Don Alejandro lowered his staff, his face etched with exhaustion and relief. The chupacabra had been banished, and our village was safe once more. In the days that followed, the attack ceased, and life slowly returned to normal. The villagers were grateful, and my family could finally rest easy, knowing that the chupacabra's curse had been lifted. The legend of the chupacabra remains a part of our cultural heritage, a reminder of the dark forces that lurk in the shadows and the power of faith and tradition to overcome them. As I look back on that summer, I am filled with a sense of awe and gratitude. The encounter with the chupacabra taught me to respect the old ways, and to never underestimate the power of the unknown. The legends of my people are not just stories, they are a testament to the mysteries and wonders that still exist in the world. And as long as there are those who believe, the stories of the chupacabra will continue to be passed down through generations, a reminder of the thin line between myth and reality. My name is Emily Reed, and I've always been fascinated by the unexplained. As a paranormal investigator, I've encountered my fair share of strange phenomena. But nothing could have prepared me for the night I came face to face with the Dover demon. It was a crisp autumn evening when I received a call from my colleague, Dr. Thomas Hayes, a local historian with a keen interest in folklore and urban legends. He had stumbled upon reports of bizarre sightings in the small town of Dover, Massachusetts, that seemed to defy rational explanation. The Dover demon, as it came to be known, was described as a humanoid creature with glowing eyes, pale skin, and a slender, elongated frame. Witnesses claimed to have seen it lurking in the woods and darting across darkened streets, always just out of reach. The reports were eerie and unsettling, and they piqued my curiosity. Thomas and I decided to investigate the sightings ourselves, armed with cameras, audio recorders, and an open mind. We arrived in Dover under the cover of night, the air thick with anticipation and a hint of unease. The town was quiet, its streets bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. Our first stop was a local diner where we met with townsfolk who had witnessed the creature firsthand. Their accounts were chillingly similar: a sense of dread, the feeling of being watched, and fleeting glimpses of a figure that defied logic and reason. One witness, an elderly woman named Mrs. Johnson, recounted an encounter she had while walking her dog near the edge of town. "I saw it clear as day," she said, her voice trembling. "It had these big, glowing eyes and skin like nothing I've ever seen. It didn't seem afraid of me, just curious." Armed with these first-hand testimonies, Thomas and I ventured into the surrounding woods, following the paths where the Dover demon had reportedly been seen. The forest was dense and eerily quiet, the only sound our footsteps crunching on fallen leaves. As we walked deeper into the woods, a chill ran down my spine. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of foreboding, as if we were trespassing on sacred ground. We set up our equipment: a night vision camera, an EMF meter, and a digital recorder, and waited in silence, hoping to capture evidence of the elusive creature. Hours passed with nothing but the rustling of leaves and distant hoots of owls. Just as we were about to call it a night, the air around us grew cold, and a strange sensation washed over me. I felt as if we were being watched, studied by unseen eyes. Then, in the beam of our flashlight, I saw a figure standing among the trees. It was humanoid in shape, with pale, almost translucent skin, and eyes that seemed to emit a faint glow. Its limbs were long and thin, its posture unnaturally stooped. I raised my camera and began taking photos, capturing the creature's eerie silhouette against the backdrop of the forest. Thomas recorded audio, hoping to capture any sounds or vocalizations. The Dover demon watched us with an unsettling calmness, its eyes never leaving our gaze. It made no move to approach us, but its presence alone was enough to send shivers down my spine. After what felt like an eternity, the creature turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving us with more questions than answers. We reviewed the evidence we had collected: photos, audio recordings, and eyewitness accounts, but the mystery of the Dover demon remained unsolved. As we packed up our equipment and prepared to leave Dover, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had witnessed something truly extraordinary. The Dover demon was real, a living enigma that defied categorization and challenged our understanding of the natural world. I knew that our investigation was far from over. The Dover demon had left its mark on me, igniting a curiosity and determination to uncover the truth behind its existence. As a paranormal investigator, it was my duty to seek out the unknown, to shine a light on the shadows where mysteries lurked. And so, as we drove away from Dover under the light of the moon, I made a silent promise to return. The Dover demon may have eluded us that night, but I was determined to uncover its secrets and unravel the truth behind its mysterious presence in the quiet town of Dover, Massachusetts. My name is Sarah Monroe, and I never believed in monsters until I encountered the beast of Bray Road. I was a journalist for a small-town newspaper in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, known for its picturesque landscapes and tight-knit community. The summer of 2023 started like any other, with local stories of community events and town meetings filling the pages of the Elkhorn Gazette. That all changed when reports began to surface of a mysterious creature prowling the rural roads outside of town. The Beast of Bray Road, as it came to be known, was said to be a large, wolf-like creature with glowing eyes and a menacing growl. Witnesses described it as standing on its hind legs, with fur as dark as midnight and claws that could tear through steel. The sightings were dismissed as urban legends by most, but I couldn't ignore the growing number of credible witnesses and the fear in their voices. Determined to uncover the truth, I set out to investigate the reports myself. Armed with a notepad, a camera, and a healthy dose of skepticism, I drove out to Bray Road on a moonlit night, the air thick with anticipation and a touch of fear. The road was deserted, flanked by cornfields that rustled softly in the breeze. I parked my car near a wooded area where the creature had reportedly been seen and waited, my senses on high alert. Hours passed with nothing but the occasional hoot of an owl and the distant hum of crickets. Just as I was beginning to question my decision to come alone, I heard a low, guttural growl that sent a shiver down my spine. I turned towards the sound and saw movement among the trees, a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness. The Beast of Bray Road stood before me, larger and more imposing than I could have imagined. Its fur bristled in the moonlight, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intensity. Fear gripped me, but so did curiosity. I raised my camera and began to take photos, capturing the creature's form as it prowled along the edge of the woods. The beast moved with a predatory grace, its movements fluid and silent. I watched in awe and terror as it sniffed the air, its senses keen and alert. It seemed aware of my presence, but made no move to approach me, instead disappearing back into the shadows from whence it came. I reviewed the photos I had taken, one a testament to the reality of the creature that had haunted the imaginations of local residents for decades. The Beast of Bray Road was real, and I had seen it with my own eyes. As I drove back to town that night, my mind raced with questions. What was the beast? Where had it come from? And why had it chosen Bray Road as its hunting ground? The answers eluded me, but one thing was clear: the story of the Beast of Bray Road was far from over. Over the following weeks, I interviewed more witnesses and gathered evidence to support my findings. The local community was divided. Some believed in the creature's existence, while others remained skeptical. But for those who had encountered the beast firsthand, there was no doubt in their minds. The legend of the Beast of Bray Road had become a part of Elkhorn's history, a tale passed down through generations. It was a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that defy explanation, and that sometimes, the truth is stranger than fiction. As for me, the encounter with the beast had changed me. I had witnessed something extraordinary, something that challenged my beliefs and sparked a newfound sense of wonder. As a journalist, I had a responsibility to seek out the truth, no matter how unsettling or unbelievable it may be. And so, as I continued to investigate the mysteries of Elkhorn and beyond, I knew that the story of the Beast of Bray Road would stay with me, a reminder of the power of the unknown and the courage it takes to confront it. My name is Jake Thompson, and I've always been drawn to the mysteries of the natural world. As a wildlife photographer, I've traveled to remote corners of the globe in search of elusive creatures and untamed landscapes. But nothing could have prepared me for my encounter with the lizard man of Scape or Swamp. It was a humid summer evening in South Carolina when I received a tip from a local fisherman about strange sightings near the swamp. Reports had been circulating for years about a creature known as the lizard man, a humanoid reptilian figure, said to inhabit the dense marshlands of Lee County. Most dismissed the stories as folklore, but the recent uptick in sightings had piqued my curiosity. Armed with my camera and a sense of adventure, I set out to investigate. The swamp was a labyrinth of cypress trees and murky waters, alive with the hum of insects and the occasional splash of unseen wildlife. I navigated carefully, mindful of the treacherous terrain and the stories that lurked in the shadows. As dusk settled over the swamp, I found a secluded spot to set up camp. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, a stark contrast to the stillness that enveloped me. I waited patiently, my camera poised and ready, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive lizard man. Hours passed with nothing but the chorus of nocturnal creatures and the distant hoot of an owl. Just as I began to doubt the validity of the sightings, I heard a rustling in the underbrush, a sound that sent a chill down my spine. I turned towards the noise and saw movement among the trees, a figure emerging from the shadows. The lizard man stood before me, a towering figure with scaly skin and piercing eyes that glowed in the moonlight. Its form was humanoid, yet distinctly reptilian, with long claws and a muscular build that spoke of strength and agility. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the creature from the legends, standing just a few feet away. Heart racing, I raised my camera and began to take photos, capturing the creature's majestic and eerie presence against the backdrop of the swamp. The lizard men seemed aware of my presence, but made no move to approach me, instead observing me with a mixture of curiosity and caution. I watched in awe as the creature moved gracefully through the swamp, its movements fluid and precise. It seemed at home in its environment, blending seamlessly with the dense foliage and murky waters. I continued to photograph and document the encounter, my mind racing with questions about the creature's origins and behavior. After what felt like an eternity, the lizard men disappeared back into the depths of the swamp, leaving me with a sense of wonder and disbelief. I reviewed the photos I had taken, one a testament to the reality of the creature that had captured the imagination of locals for decades. As I packed up my gear and prepared to leave Scape or Swamp, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had witnessed something extraordinary. The lizard man was real, a living testament to the mysteries of the natural world and the resilience of folklore in the face of skepticism. In the weeks that followed, I shared my findings with the scientific community and local authorities, sparking renewed interest in the legends of the lizard man. While skeptics continued to question the validity of the sightings, those who had encountered the creature firsthand knew the truth. For me, the encounter had been a once-in-a-lifetime experientia reminder of the power of nature and the allure of the unknown. As a wildlife photographer, I had captured breathtaking images of creatures great and small, but none had left as profound an impression as the lizard man of Scape or Swamp. And so, as I continued my journey through the natural world, I carried with me the memory of the lizard man, reminder that there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered and stories waiting to be told. My name is Alex Reynolds, and I'm an urban explorer with a passion for uncovering hidden mysteries. One such mystery took me deep into the heart of Ohio, where I encountered the enigmatic creature known as the Loveland Frogman. It was a chilly autumn night when I received a tip from a fellow explorer about strange sightings near the Little Miami River. Reports had been circulating for years about a humanoid amphibious creature lurking in the shadows, a creature with webbed hands, bulging eyes, and a penchant for evading capture. Most dismissed the stories as urban legend, but the recent surge in sightings had piqued my interest. Armed with my camera and a sense of adventure, I set out to investigate. The night was silent and still as I made my way through the dense underbrush along the riverbank. The moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in the moonlight. As I approached a secluded stretch of the river, I noticed movement among the rocks. A figure crouched low near the water's edge. My heart raced as I realized I was face to face with the Loveland Frogman. The creature stood upright, its skin glistening with moisture and its eyes reflecting the faint light. It had a humanoid form, but with distinctly amphibious features: webbed fingers and toes, mottled skin, and a muscular build that hinted at its strength and agility. I hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. The Loveland Frogman watched me with a mixture of curiosity and wariness, its eyes never leaving mine. I slowly raised my camera, hoping to capture proof of the creature's existence. For several minutes, we remained locked in a silent standoff. The air was thick with tension, the only sound the gentle lapping of the river against the shore. I snapped several photos, each one a testament to the surreal encounter unfolding before me. Just as I began to lower my camera, the Loveland Frogman emitted a low, guttural croak sound that sent a chill down my spine. It turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving me with a sense of awe and disbelief. I reviewed the photos I had taken, each one a blurry yet haunting image of the creature that had eluded capture for so long. The Loveland Frogman was real, a living enigma that defied explanation and challenged my understanding of the natural world. As I made my way back to civilization, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had witnessed something extraordinary. The encounter had ignited a fire within me, determination to uncover the truth behind the legends and myths that captured the imagination of so many. In the days that followed, I shared my findings with fellow explorers and researchers, sparking renewed interest in the mystery of the Loveland Frogman. While skeptics continued to question the validity of the sightings, those who had encountered the creature firsthand knew the truth. For me, the encounter had been a life-changing experientia reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows and the thrill of exploring the unknown. As an urban explorer, I had ventured into abandoned buildings and forgotten tunnels, but none had left as lasting an impression as the night I came face to face with the Loveland Frogman. And so, as I continued my journey through the world of urban exploration, I carried with me the memory of that fateful night, a reminder that sometimes the The most extraordinary discoveries are found in the places least expected. My name is Dr. Claire Peterson, and I am an anthropologist specializing in cryptozoology. My work has taken me to some of the most remote corners of the globe, but none more intriguing than the dense rainforests of Sumatra, where I hope to uncover the truth behind the legend of the orang pendek. The orang pendek, or short person, said to be a small, bipedal primate with human-like features inhabiting the unexplored depths of Sumatra's rainforests. The local tribes spoke of the creature with a mix of reverence and fear, describing it as elusive and intelligent, yet fiercely protective of its territory. I arrived in Sumatra during the peak of the rainy season, the air thick with humidity and the scent of earth and vegetation. My guide, a local named Rahman, led me into the forest, his machete cutting a path through the dense underbrush. Rahman had grown up hearing stories of the orang pendek and was eager to help me in my quest to find evidence of its existence. Our journey began at the edge of Kerinci Seblat National Park, a vast and largely uncharted expanse of rainforest. We set up a base camp near the park's perimeter and spent the first few days familiarizing ourselves with the area, noting the sounds and movements of the jungle's inhabitants. On the fourth day, as we trekked deeper into the forest, we stumbled upon a series of footprints small, human-like, and unlike any animal tracks I had ever seen. My excitement grew as I photographed and documented the prints, convinced that we were on the trail of the orang pendek. As the days passed, we encountered more signs of the elusive creaturican branches, disturbed foliage, and the occasional glimpse of a shadowy figure darting through the trees. Rahman and I followed these clues with a mix of determination and caution, aware that we were venturing into the heart of the orang pendek's territory. One evening, as we set up camp near a small stream, Rahman pointed out a cluster of fruit trees with fresh, half-eaten fruit scattered on the ground. Orang pendek loves these fruits, he explained. They come here to eat. We decided to set up a camera trap near the trees, hoping to capture footage of the creature. As night fell, the sounds of the rainforest came alive with the calls of nocturnal animals and the rustling of leaves in the breeze. I lay in my tent, my mind racing with anticipation and a hint of fear. In the early hours of the morning, a sudden, high-pitched scream pierced the stillness of the night. I scrambled out of my tent, my flashlight illuminating the dark forest. Rahman was already awake, his eyes wide with alarm. "It's the orang pendek," he whispered. "It's close." We moved cautiously towards the fruit trees, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. As we approached, I saw movement among the branches, a small, agile figure climbing swiftly into the canopy. I raised my camera, snapping photos as the creature paused to look at us, its eyes reflecting the light. The orang pendek was unlike anything I had ever seen, standing no more than 4 feet tall, with reddish-brown fur and a face that was both human and ape-like. It observed us with a mix of curiosity and wariness, its small, nimble hands gripping the branches. I held my breath, awestruck by the sight of the legendary creature. It was real, a living testament to the mysteries of the natural world. The orang pendek watched us for a moment longer before disappearing into the dense foliage, leaving us in stunned silence. As dawn broke, we reviewed the photos and footage we had captured. The images were clear and undeniable proof of the existence of the orang pendek. I felt a sense of accomplishment and wonder, knowing that we had uncovered one of the greatest mysteries of the Sumatran rainforest. In the weeks that followed, our discovery made headlines around the world, sparking renewed interest in the field of cryptozoology. Scientists and researchers flocked to Sumatra, eager to learn more about the elusive creature that had captured the imagination of so many. For me, the search for the orang pendek had been a journey of discovery and enlightenment. It was a reminder that the world is full of hidden wonders, waiting to be uncovered by those with the curiosity and determination to seek them out. As I continued my work, I carried with me the memory of that extraordinary encounter, a testament to the power of belief and the endless possibilities that lie within the unexplored corners of our planet. My name is David Walker, and I'm an ornithologist with a fascination for legendary birds. My research has taken me across continents in search of rare and elusive species. But nothing could compare to the legend of the thunderbird that drew me to the remote wilderness of Alaska. The thunderbird is a creature of Native American folklore, described as a massive bird with a wingspan that darkens the sky and the power to create storms with the beating of its wings. While many dismissed it as a myth, there had been recent reports from isolated communities in Alaska of sightings that piqued my interest. I arrived in the small town of Coldfoot, Alaska, at the onset of winter. The air was crisp, and the ground was blanketed in snow. The townspeople were friendly but reserved, their eyes betraying a hint of unease. When I mentioned my quest to find the thunderbird, they spoke in hushed tones about the creature, as if fearing it might hear and come for them. I met with an elder named Nuka, who had witnessed the thunderbird during his youth. His stories were filled with awe and respect for the mighty bird. He described it as a creature of immense size, with feathers that shimmered like the northern lights and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. Nuka agreed to guide me to the area where he had last seen the thunderbird, a remote valley nestled between towering mountains. We set out on snowmobiles, traversing the rugged terrain with Nuka leading the way. The journey was grueling, but my excitement grew with each passing mile. We reached the valley just as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the snow-covered landscape. Nuka pointed to a large outcropping of rock where he had seen the thunderbird perched many years ago. We set up camp near the edge of the valley, the stillness of the wilderness interrupted only by the occasional howl of a distant wolf. As night fell, the sky came alive with the shimmering dance of the aurora borealis. A breathtaking display that filled me with a sense of wonder and anticipation. In the early hours of the morning, a powerful gust of wind shook our tents. I emerged to find the sky darkening, as if a storm were brewing. Nuka stood at the edge of the camp, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "It's coming," he whispered, his voice filled with a mix of fear and reverence. I followed his gaze and saw it, a massive silhouette against the sky, its wings beating with a force that stirred the air and sent snow swirling around us. The thunderbird was real, and it was magnificent. Its wingspan was enormous, casting a shadow over the valley, and its feathers shimmered with iridescent hues. The thunderbird circled above us, its powerful wings creating gusts of wind that howled through the mountains. I stood in awe, my camera in hand, capturing the majestic creature as it soared through the sky. Its presence was both awe-inspiring and intimidating, a reminder of nature's raw power and beauty. For several minutes, the thunderbird flew above us, its piercing cry echoing through the valley. Then, with a final, powerful beat of its wings, it ascended into the storm clouds, disappearing from sight. The sky slowly cleared, and the valley was once again bathed in the soft light of the aurora borealis. I reviewed the photos I had taken, each one a testament to the existence of the legendary thunderbird. The images were breathtaking, capturing the creature's majesty and the otherworldly beauty of the Alaskan wilderness. As we packed up camp and prepared to leave the valley, Nuka placed a hand on my shoulder. "You have seen what many have only dreamed of," he said. "The thunderbird is a guardian of these lands, a symbol of the power and mystery of nature. Respect it, and it will respect you." In the weeks that followed, my discovery made headlines around the world, sparking debates and discussions among scientists, researchers, and enthusiasts. While some remained skeptical, the evidence was undeniable. Thunderbird was real, a living legend that defied explanation. For me, the encounter with the thunderbird was a defining moment in my career and my life. It was a reminder that the world is full of wonders, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to believe in the impossible. As an ornithologist, I had studied countless species of birds, but none had left as profound an impact as the mighty Thunderbird. And so, as I continued my research and exploration, I carried with me the memory of that incredible flight, a testament to the power of nature and the endless possibilities that lie within the unexplored corners of our planet. My name is Carlos Ramirez, and I am a journalist specializing in investigative reporting. My work has taken me to the darkest corners of human experience. But nothing could have prepared me for the story that awaited me in the small village of El Chelo, deep in the heart of rural Mexico. It was here that I encountered the legendary chupacabra, a creature of myth and fear that had been terrorizing the local livestock and captivating the imagination of people across Latin America. The chupacabra, or goatsucker, described as a creature that attacks animals, drinking their blood and leaving behind a trail of carcasses. Reports of the creature date back to the 1990s, but its origins are shrouded in mystery and folklore. The recent surge in sightings and attacks in El Chelo had brought me to this remote village, determined to uncover the truth behind the legend. I arrived in El Chelo at the peak of summer, the air thick with heat and the scent of blooming jacaranda trees. The village was small and isolated, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. The locals were wary of outsiders, their eyes filled with suspicion and fear. They spoke in hushed tones about the chupacabra, as if invoking its name would summon the creature itself. My first contact was with Maria Alvarez, a local farmer who had lost several goats to the chupacabra in recent weeks. Her ranch was located on the outskirts of the village, surrounded by fields of maize and wildflowers. Maria was a strong, determined woman, but the recent attacks had left her shaken and desperate for answers. "Sir Ramirez, you must help us," she pleaded, as we stood by the remains of her latest victim, a young goat, drained of blood and left with strange puncture marks on its neck. "The chupacabra is real, and it's getting bolder. We fear for our animals and for ourselves." I assured Maria that I would do everything in my power to uncover the truth and bring an end to the terror. My investigation began with the villagers' accounts of the creature. Many described it as a reptilian or canine-like beast, with leathery skin, sharp fangs, and glowing red eyes. The attacks always occurred at night, and the creature left no trace of its presence other than the mutilated carcasses of its victims. I spent the next few days interviewing witnesses and gathering evidence. The stories were chillingly consistent, each one adding to the growing sense of dread that hung over the village. The attacks were becoming more frequent, and the villagers were on edge, fearful of what each night would bring. Determined to capture proof of the chupacabra's existence, I set up a series of cameras and motion sensors around Maria's ranch. The nights were long and tense, each sound amplified by the darkness and the weight of expectation. On the fourth night, as the moon hung low in the sky, the sensors triggered an alert. I rushed to the site, my heart pounding with anticipation. The camera footage showed a shadowy figure moving swiftly through the fields, its eyes glowing like embers in the night. I followed the trail, my flashlight cutting through the darkness, until I reached the edge of the forest. There, in the dim light, I saw a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. The chupacabra stood on two legs, its body covered in rough, scaly skin. It had a hunched posture, long claws, and a face that was both animalistic and eerily human. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its mouth was filled with sharp, needle-like teeth. It stared at me for a moment, as if assessing the threat I posed, before disappearing into the forest with a speed and agility that defied belief. I returned to the village with the footage, my mind reeling from the encounter. The evidence was undeniable. Chupacabra was real, a living nightmare that defied scientific explanation. The villagers were both terrified and vindicated, their fears confirmed by the footage I had captured. In the weeks that followed, the village of El Chelo became a focal point for researchers and cryptozoologists from around the world. Scientists analyzed the footage and the remains of the attacked animals, searching for answers to the mystery of the chupacabra. Theories ranged from a previously undiscovered species of predator to a genetic mutation or a supernatural entity. Despite the increased attention, the attacks continued, and the chupacabra remained elusive. My own research led me to delve deeper into the folklore and history of the region. I discovered that tales of blood-sucking creatures dated back centuries, intertwined with the cultural and spiritual beliefs of the indigenous peoples. The chupacabra was not just a modern myth, but a manifestation of ancient fears and legends. One evening, as I sat with Maria and her family, discussing the ongoing attacks, an elderly man named Juan approached us. He was one of the village's oldest residents, his face lined with the wisdom and hardships of a long life. Juan claimed to have encountered the chupacabra many years ago, and his story added a new dimension to the mystery. It was during the war, he began, his voice trembling with the weight of his memories. I was a young man, fighting in the mountains. One night, my unit was ambushed, and I was separated from my comrades. I stumbled upon a cave, seeking refuge, and that's where I saw a creature with eyes like fire and a thirst for blood. It spared me, but only because I showed no fear. Juan's account was both chilling and fascinating, hinting at a possible connection between the chupacabra and the region's turbulent history. Could the creature be drawn to places of violence and fear, feeding on the energy of human suffering? It was a theory that seemed far-fetched, but in the world of the chupacabra, nothing could be dismissed outright. As the months passed, my investigation continued, but the answers remained elusive. The chupacabra was a master of evasion, a creature that existed on the fringes of reality and myth. The villagers of El Cello learned to coexist with the creature, taking precautions to protect their livestock and themselves, while respecting the ancient legend that had become a part of their lives. For me, the search for the chupacabra was a journey into the unknown, a quest that challenged my understanding of the natural world and the boundaries of human knowledge. The encounter had left an indelible mark on my soul, a reminder that some mysteries are meant to be experienced, not explained. As I left El Cello and returned to my life as a journalist, I carried with me the memory of the chupacabra, creature of myth and reality, a symbol of the enduring power of fear and wonder. The legend of the chupacabra lived on, a story that would continue to captivate and terrify, a testament to the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Richard Mallory, and I am a folklore professor specializing in the myths and legends of North America. My work often takes me to remote regions, but nothing could have prepared me for the chilling encounter had in the dense forests of the Canadian wilderness. It was there that I came face to face with the Wendigo, a creature of Algonquin legend that embodies the darkest aspects of human nature. The Wendigo is described as a malevolent, cannibalistic spirit that can possess humans, driving them to commit unspeakable acts. According to the legends, the Wendigo is a creature born of the cold and hunger of the northern forests. A gaunt figure with the heart of ice and an insatiable hunger for human flesh. My journey to uncover the truth behind this terrifying legend began when I received a letter from an old colleague, Dr. Eleanor Gray, who was conducting research in a remote area of Ontario. Eleanor's letter was cryptic and urgent, hinting at a discovery that could change our understanding of the Wendigo legend. She mentioned strange occurrences in the village of Black River, where the locals were living in fear of a creature stalking the woods. Intrigued and concerned, I packed my bags and headed north, determined to assist Eleanor and uncover the truth. I arrived in Black River in the dead of winter, the air biting and the ground covered in a thick layer of snow. The village was small and isolated, nestled among towering pine trees and frozen lakes. The residents were wary and tight-lipped, their eyes reflecting a deep-seated fear. They spoke in hushed tones about disappearances and eerie howls in the night, warning me to stay indoors after dark. Eleanor met me at the local inn, her face pale and drawn. She led me to a small cabin on the outskirts of the village, where she had been staying and conducting her research. Inside, the walls were lined with books and maps, documenting the history and folklore of the Wendigo. She showed me her notes, which detailed a series of disappearances and sightings that had occurred over the past few months. "The legends are true, Richard," she said, her voice trembling. "Something is out there, something that defies explanation. The villagers are terrified, and I fear we may be dealing with a real Wendigo." Eleanor's conviction was unsettling, but I trusted her expertise and dedication to her work. We decided to investigate the most recent disappearance, that of a young hunter named Thomas, who had vanished a week earlier. The villagers believed he had fallen victim to the Wendigo, and we hoped to find clues that could explain his fate. We set out at dawn, the cold biting through our layers of clothing as we trekked through the snow-covered forest. Eleanor led the way, following the tracks left by Thomas on his last hunting trip. The forest was eerily silent, the only sound the crunch of our boots on the snow and the occasional rustle of branches in the wind. As we ventured deeper into the woods, we found signs of a struggle, broken branches, disturbed snow, and bloodstains that led to a small clearing. There, we found Thomas's rifle and a torn piece of his jacket, but no sign of the hunter himself. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Eleanor knelt by the bloodstains, her face grim. "This is where it happened," she said softly. "The Wendigo took him." We followed the trail of blood and tracks, our unease growing with each step. The tracks led us to a cave, its entrance partially hidden by a tangle of roots and snow. The air around the cave was unnaturally cold, and a sense of dread washed over me as we approached. Inside the cave, the darkness was absolute, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. We lit our lanterns, the flickering light casting eerie shadows on the walls. As we ventured deeper, we found more evidence of the Wendigo's bones, both animal and human, scattered across the floor. The sight was horrifying, a testament to the creature's insatiable hunger. In the depths of the cave, we found Thomas. His body was mutilated beyond recognition, his eyes wide with terror. Eleanor and I stood in stunned silence, the reality of the legend hitting us with full force. The Wendigo was real, and it was hunting in these woods. We left the cave, our minds reeling from the discovery. Back in the village, we shared our findings with the local authorities, who were skeptical but agreed to increase patrols and warn the residents to stay indoors after dark. Eleanor and I knew that we couldn't leave without finding a way to stop the Wendigo, to end the terror that had gripped Black River. We delved deeper into the folklore, searching for clues on how to defeat the Wendigo. The legends spoke of fire as the creature's only weakness, a purifying force that could destroy the malevolent spirit. We prepared torches and gasoline, determined to confront the Wendigo and put an end to its reign of terror. That night, as the moon cast an eerie glow over the snow-covered landscape, Eleanor and I set out for the cave. The forest was silent, the air heavy with anticipation. We reached the cave and lit our torches, the flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. As we ventured inside, the temperature dropped, and an unnatural chill filled the air. We moved cautiously, our senses on high alert. In the depths of the cave, we heard a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down my spine. The Wendigo emerged from the darkness, its gaunt, skeletal frame illuminated by the flickering torchlight. It was a terrifying sight, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light, its mouth filled with sharp, yellowed teeth. The creature let out a blood-curdling scream, a sound that echoed through the cave and shook me to my core. We raised our torches, the flames casting a warm glow in the cold, dark cave. The Wendigo hesitated, its eyes fixed on the fire. With a surge of determination, Eleanor and I advanced, the torches held high. The creature recoiled, its fear of the flames evident. We threw the gasoline, the liquid splashing onto the Wendigo's skin. The creature let out a howl of rage and pain as the fire ignited, the flames consuming its gaunt frame. The cave was filled with the acrid smell of burning flesh, and the Wendigo's screams echoed in the darkness. As the flames died down, the creature's body crumbled to ash, leaving behind nothing but a charred skeleton. The oppressive chill lifted, and a sense of relief washed over me. The Wendigo was defeated, its curse lifted from the village of Black River. We emerged from the cave, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. The villagers greeted us with a mix of relief and gratitude, their fear replaced by hope. The legend of the Wendigo would live on, but its terror had been vanquished. In the weeks that followed, Eleanor and I documented our findings, sharing the story of the Wendigo and its defeat with the world. Our encounter with the creature had been a harrowing experience, a journey into the darkest depths of human fear and folklore. But it had also been a reminder of the power of determination and courage in the face of the unknown. As I returned to my work as a professor, I carried with me the memory of that chilling encounter, a testament to the enduring power of legends and the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. The Wendigo was a creature of myth and reality, a symbol of the darkness that can reside within us all. And its story would continue to captivate and terrify, a reminder of the thin line between legend and truth. My name is Emily Harper, and I am an urban explorer and amateur historian with a keen interest in the unexplained. My adventures have taken me to some of the most mysterious and haunted places in America, but none compare to the eerie pine barrens of New Jersey. It was here, in this sprawling forest, that I encountered the legendary Jersey Devil, a creature that has haunted the region for centuries. The legend of the Jersey Devil dates back to the early 18th century, with tales of a monstrous creature born to Deborah Leeds, a Pine Barrens resident. According to the legend, the creature was her 13th child, cursed from birth to become a demon. Descriptions of the Jersey Devil vary, but it is often depicted as a kangaroo-like creature with bat wings, a horse's head, and a blood-curdling scream. My journey began when I received an email from a fellow explorer named Jack Lawson, who had recently moved to the outskirts of the Pine Barrens. Jack had stumbled upon a series of strange occurrences and sightings that he believed were connected to the Jersey Devil. Intrigued, I packed my gear and headed to New Jersey, eager to uncover the truth behind the legend. I arrived in the small town of Leeds Point, a place steeped in history and folklore. The locals were friendly but cautious, their conversations peppered with warnings about venturing too deep into the woods. Jack met me at the local diner, and over a cup of coffee, he shared his findings. "Emily, there's something out there," he said, his voice low and serious. "I've heard the screams at night, and I've found tracks that don't belong to any known animal. The locals are too scared to talk about it, but they all know the legend. They call it the Jersey Devil." Jack and I spent the next few days gathering information and exploring the area. We spoke with residents who recounted chilling stories of encounters with the creature, stories of livestock mutilations, eerie howls, and sightings of a winged beast lurking in the shadows. The fear in their eyes was genuine, and it only fueled our determination to uncover the truth. Our first expedition into the Pine Barrens was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. The forest was dense and tangled, with a labyrinth of trails and overgrown paths. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and the only sounds were the rustle of leaves and the distant calls of birds. As night fell, the forest took on a more sinister feel, the shadows deepening and the air growing colder. We set up camp near an old abandoned cabin, a relic of the area's logging past. Jack had heard rumors that the cabin was a hotspot for Jersey Devil activity, and we hoped to capture evidence of the creature. As darkness enveloped the forest, we sat by the campfire, our senses on high alert. Around midnight, we heard a distant, chilling scream that echoed through the trees. It was unlike anything I had ever heard, a sound that sent shivers down my spine and made my blood run cold. Jack and I exchanged a glance, our hearts pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. We grabbed our flashlights and cameras, following the sound deeper into the forest. The scream grew louder and more intense, guiding us through the tangled underbrush. Suddenly, the sound stopped, and we found ourselves in a small clearing, illuminated by the pale light of the moon. In the center of the clearing stood the Jersey Devil. The creature was even more terrifying than I had imagined. It stood on two legs, its body covered in coarse, dark fur. Its wings were leathery and bat-like, and its head resembled that of a horse, with glowing red eyes and sharp, jagged teeth. It stared at us with an intelligence and malevolence that was unnerving. For a moment, we were frozen, unable to move or speak. The Jersey Devil let out another scream, its eyes fixed on us. Then, with a powerful flap of its wings, it took to the air, disappearing into the night sky. We stood there, stunned, the reality of what we had seen sinking in. We returned to the cabin, our minds racing with the implications of our encounter. The footage we had captured was undeniable proof of the Jersey Devil's existence. A discovery that would shake the foundations of cryptozoology and folklore. But as we reviewed the footage, we noticed something strange and eerie. Whispering sound in the background, like a voice speaking in an unknown language. Determined to understand more, we spent the following days interviewing more locals and digging into the history of the Pine Barrens. We learned that the legend of the Jersey Devil was deeply intertwined with the region's past. A blend of colonial history, Native American folklore, and tales of witchcraft and curses. One evening, we visited an elderly woman named Abigail, who had lived in Leeds Point her entire life. She welcomed us into her home, her eyes filled with the wisdom of years and the weight of untold stories. Abigail spoke of the Pine Barrens as a place of power, a land that held both beauty and darkness. The Jersey Devil is more than just a creature, she said, her voice soft and measured. It's a manifestation of the land's pain and anger. This forest has seen so much suffering, bloodshed, loss. The devil is a reminder of that history, guardian of sorts, though a fearsome one. Abigail's words resonated with me, adding a new layer to our understanding of the Jersey Devil. The creature was not just a monster, but a symbol of the land's troubled past. We realized that to truly understand the Jersey Devil, we needed to respect and acknowledge the history and emotions that had given rise to the legend. Our final night in the Pine Barrens was the most harrowing. We decided to revisit the clearing where we had first seen the Jersey Devil, hoping to have another encounter and gather more evidence. The night was dark and cold, the forest eerily silent as we made our way through the trees. As we approached the clearing, the air grew heavy with tension. We set up our cameras and waited, the minutes stretching into hours. Just as we were about to give up, we heard an agant-chilling scream that had haunted our dreams. The Jersey Devil emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. But this time, there was something different about the creature. It seemed agitated, its movements jerky and erratic. It let out a series of screams, each one more desperate than the last. Suddenly, the ground beneath us began to shake, and the air filled with a deafening roar. The Jersey Devil took to the air, circling above us before diving into the forest, disappearing from sight. The roar grew louder, and we realized it was coming from the earth itself. A massive crack opened up in the ground, and we barely had time to react as the forest around us seemed to come alive. Trees swayed and groaned, and the air was filled with the sound of breaking branches and falling debris. We scrambled to escape, our hearts pounding with fear. We made it back to the cabin, breathless and shaken. The forest had returned to an eerie calm, but we knew we had witnessed something extraordinary. The Jersey Devil's behavior, the roar, the shaking ground, it all pointed to a deeper connection between the creature and the land itself. In the days that followed, Jack and I compiled our research and footage, presenting our findings to the scientific community and the public. The evidence was compelling, sparking a renewed interest in the legend of the Jersey Devil. Our encounter had confirmed the creature's existence, but it had also raised new questions. about the nature of the pine barrens and the forces that shaped it. For me, the experience was a profound reminder of the power of legend and the mysteries that still lurk in the world. The Jersey Devil was not just a monster, but a guardian of the land's history, a symbol of the enduring power of fear and wonder. As I returned to my explorations and research, I carried with me the memory of that chilling encounter, a testament to the thin line between legend and reality, and the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Carlos Rivera, and I am a wildlife biologist specializing in the study of rare and elusive animals. My work often takes me to remote and challenging environments, but no assignment was as mystifying or as dangerous as my expedition to El Yunque National Forest in Puerto Rico. It was there that I encountered the chupacabra, a creature of legend that has haunted the island for decades. The chupacabra, which translates to goatsucker, is a cryptid known for its alleged attacks on livestock, draining them of blood. Descriptions of the creature vary, but it is often depicted as a reptilian creature with spines along its back, glowing red eyes, and sharp fangs. The legend of the chupacabra emerged in the 1990s, sparking fear and fascination across Latin America and beyond. My journey began when I received a call from Dr. Elena Morales, a fellow biologist and a friend from my university days. Elena had been conducting research in El Yunque and had encountered a series of unexplained livestock deaths that she believed were linked to the chupacabra. Intrigued and concerned for her safety, I agreed to join her and investigate the phenomenon. I arrived in San Juan and made my way to the small town of Rio Grande, nestled at the edge of the lush and verdant El Yunque National Forest. The town was buzzing with rumors and fear, the residents whispering about the recent attacks and the possibility of the chupacabra's return. Elena met me at a local cafe, her expression a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Carlos, I'm glad you're here," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "I've never seen anything like this. The livestock are being drained of blood, and there are no signs of struggle. The locals are terrified, and I need your help to figure this out." We spent the next few days visiting farms and interviewing residents who had experienced the attacks. The stories were eerily similar: livestock found dead, with puncture wounds on their necks, and their bodies drained of blood. The fear in the eyes of the farmers was palpable, and their descriptions of the creature matched the legend of the chupacabra. One evening, we visited the farm of a man named Manuel, who had lost several goats to the mysterious predator. Manuel was a weathered and stoic farmer, but the fear in his voice was unmistakable as he recounted the night of the attack. "I heard the goat screaming," he said, his hands trembling slightly. "When I ran out, I saw this creature with glowing red eyes and spines along its back. It moved so fast, and before I could do anything, it was gone, and my goats were dead." Manuel led us to the area where the attack had occurred. The ground was disturbed, and there were clear signs of a struggle. We found tracks that were unlike any animal I had ever seen: large, clawed footprints that seemed to belong to a reptilian creature. Elena and I collected samples and took photographs, determined to analyze them back at our makeshift lab. As night fell, we set up cameras and motion sensors around Manuel's farm, hoping to capture footage of the chupacabra. The forest was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, but there was an underlying sense of unease that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. We took turns keeping watch, our senses on high alert. Around midnight, the sensors detected movement near the edge of the forest. Elena and I watched the monitors intently, our hearts pounding with anticipation. Suddenly, we saw a shadowy figure moving swiftly through the trees, its eyes glowing in the darkness. The chupacabra had returned. We grabbed our flashlights and cameras, following the creature's movements as it approached the livestock pen. The goats were restless, sensing the predator's presence. We moved closer, trying to stay as quiet as possible. As we neared the pen, the chupacabra emerged from the shadows, its form fully visible in the moonlight. The creature was terrifying reptilian beast with spines running down its back, sharp claws, and eyes that glowed an eerie red. It moved with a predatory grace, its gaze fixed on the goats. Elena and I froze, captivated by the sight before us. The chupacabra leapt towards the pen, but before it could reach the goats, we activated the floodlights, bathing the area in bright light. The creature let out a screech, its eyes narrowing as it turned towards us. For a moment, I thought it might attack, but then it bolted, disappearing into the forest with incredible speed. We reviewed the footage, our excitement tempered by the realization of how dangerous our quest had become. The chupacabra was real, and it was more than just a legend. We decided to consult with local experts and delve deeper into the folklore. To understand more about the creature and how to protect the livestock, we met with Professor Alejandro Santiago, an anthropologist who had spent years studying the myths and legends of Puerto Rico. He welcomed us into his home, his eyes twinkling with curiosity as we recounted our encounter. The chupacabra is a fascinating and complex legend, he said, leaning back in his chair. It embodies the fears and anxieties of the people, a manifestation of the unknown and the unexplained. But your encounter suggests that there is a real creature behind the myth. Professor Santiago shared with us stories and historical accounts of similar creatures, linking the chupacabra to ancient tales of blood-drinking beasts that had haunted the region for centuries. He also spoke of a possible link to escaped laboratory experiments or mutations, adding a layer of scientific intrigue to the legend. Armed with this new knowledge, Elena and I decided to continue our research, focusing on understanding the creature's behavior and finding a way to protect the livestock. We set up more cameras and sensors in strategic locations, hoping to capture more footage and gather data on the chupacabra's movements. One night, while reviewing the footage, we noticed a pattern. The chupacabra seemed to follow a specific route, emerging from the deeper parts of the forest and targeting isolated farms. We mapped out its path, realizing that it moved through a network of caves and tunnels that crisscrossed El Yunque. Determined to find its lair, we ventured into the heart of the forest, navigating through dense foliage and treacherous terrain. The deeper we went, the more the forest seemed to close in around us, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The sense of being watched was ever present, but we pressed on, driven by our need to uncover the truth. We found the entrance to a cave, partially hidden by a thicket of vines and undergrowth. The air around the cave was cold and still, and a sense of foreboding washed over me as we approached. We lit our lanterns and stepped inside, the flickering light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The cave was dark and labyrinthine, the air thick with the stench of decay. We moved cautiously, our senses on high alert. As we ventured deeper, we found evidence of the chupacabra's presenza bones, both animal and human, scattered across the floor. The sight was horrifying, a testament to the creature's predatory nature. In the depths of the cave, we heard a low, guttural growl that echoed through the tunnels. The chupacabra was close, and we knew we had to be careful. We followed the sound, our hearts pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. Suddenly, the creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. It stood before us, its form fully visible in the lantern light. For a moment, we were frozen, unable to move or speak. The chupacabra let out a blood-curdling scream, its eyes fixed on us. Then, with a swift and fluid motion, it lunged towards us. We scrambled to defend ourselves, using the lanterns to keep the creature at bay. The light seemed to confuse it, giving us a chance to retreat. We made our way back through the tunnels, the chupacabra's screams echoing behind us. As we emerged from the cave, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, we realized the gravity of our discovery. The chupacabra was not just a legend, but a real and dangerous predator. In the weeks that followed, Elena and I shared our findings with the scientific community and the public, sparking a renewed interest in the legend of the chupacabra. Our encounter had confirmed the creature's existence, but it had also raised new questions about its origins and behavior. For me, the experience was a profound reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world and the thin line between legend and reality. The chupacabra was a symbol of the unknown, a creature that defied explanation and sparked fear and fascination in equal measure. As I returned to my work as a biologist, I carried with me the memory of that chilling encounter, a testament to the enduring power of legend and the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Jason Hargrove, and I am an investigative journalist, with a passion for uncovering the truth behind urban legends and unexplained phenomena. My latest assignment took me to the remote Uinta Basin in Utah, a region infamous for its strange occurrences and paranormal activity. My focus was Skinwalker Ranch, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. Known for its encounters with skinwalkers, malevolent shapeshifters from Navajo lore. The legend of the Skinwalker is deeply rooted in Native American culture, particularly among the Navajo. Skinwalkers are said to be witches who possess the ability to transform into animals and humans, using their powers for evil. The stories are chilling, filled with accounts of terror and death. I first heard about Skinwalker Ranch from a colleague who described it as a hotbed of paranormal activity, from UFO sightings to encounters with strange creatures. The ranch had changed hands several times, with each owner experiencing unexplainable phenomena. Intrigued by these stories, I decided to visit the ranch and uncover the truth for myself. I arrived in the small town of Ballard, which lies just outside the ranch. The locals were wary of outsiders and reluctant to talk about the ranch. But I managed to find a guide named Robert, a local who had grown up hearing stories about the place. Robert agreed to take me to the ranch and share what he knew. As we drove towards the ranch, Robert told me about the history of the land. The Ute tribe, who lived in the area, believed that the land was cursed and avoided it at all costs. They spoke of skinwalkers that roamed the area, creatures that could take on any form and were nearly impossible to kill. The fear in Robert's voice was palpable as he recounted the stories. We arrived at the ranch just before dusk, the sun casting long shadows over the desolate landscape. The ranch was a sprawling property, with abandoned buildings and overgrown fields. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of the wind through the trees. As we explored the property, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Robert and I set up camp near the main house, a dilapidated structure that had clearly seen better days. We set up cameras and motion sensors, hoping to capture any strange occurrences. As night fell, the atmosphere grew more oppressive, the darkness seeming to close in around us. Around midnight, we heard the first sign of activity, a distant howl that echoed through the night. It was unlike any animal sound I had ever heard, a chilling cry that sent shivers down my spine. Robert and I grabbed our flashlights and followed the sound, our hearts pounding with anticipation. As we moved through the trees, we saw a figure moving swiftly through the darkness. It was too fast to be human, its movements fluid and unnatural. We followed it to a clearing, where it stopped and turned to face us. In the beam of our flashlights, we saw a creature that defied explanation. It stood on two legs, its body covered in matted fur. Its eyes glowed an unnatural yellow, and its mouth was filled with sharp teeth. The creature let out a guttural growl, and before we could react, it lunged at us. We stumbled back, the fear paralyzing us for a moment. Robert fired his rifle, but the creature seemed unfazed, disappearing into the darkness with a speed that was unnerving. We returned to camp, shaken by the encounter. Reviewing the footage, we saw that we had captured the creature on camera, its form, a blur of movement. The evidence was undeniable, had encountered a skinwalker. But what did it want, and why was it here? Determined to find answers, we reached out to a Navajo elder named Ben, who agreed to meet with us and share his knowledge. Ben was a stoic and wise man, his eyes filled with the weight of years and the stories of his people. He welcomed us into his home, and as we sat around the fire, he told us about the Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are witches who have turned evil, he explained, his voice steady and calm. They use their powers to harm others, taking on the form of animals to deceive and terrorize. They are nearly impossible to kill, and they bring death and destruction wherever they go. Ben told us that the land of Skinwalker Ranch had been cursed by the Navajo long ago, a result of a bitter conflict with the Ute tribe. The Skinwalkers were drawn to the land by this curse, feeding off the fear and suffering of those who lived there. He warned us that the Skinwalkers were not to be trifled with, and that we should leave the ranch before it was too late. Despite his warnings, we decided to continue our investigation. We set up more cameras and sensors, determined to capture more evidence. As the days passed, the activity on the ranch intensified. We heard strange noises at night, saw shadows moving in the corners of our vision, and found mutilated animals near our camp. One night, we were awakened by a loud crash. Rushing outside, we saw that one of our cameras had been destroyed. As we surveyed the damage, we felt a presence behind us. Turning, we saw a figure standing at the edge of the trees. It was a Skinwalker, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. The creature spoke, its voice a low, guttural growl. "Leave this place," it said, "or you will suffer the same fate as those before you." Before we could react, the Skinwalker disappeared into the darkness. We were left standing there, our hearts pounding with fear. The message was clear: Skinwalkers did not want us there, and they were willing to do whatever it took to drive us away. Despite the danger, we were determined to uncover the truth. We consulted with Ben again, asking for his help in dealing with the Skinwalkers. He agreed to perform a cleansing ceremony, hoping to lift the curse and drive the Skinwalkers away. The ceremony took place at dawn, the first light of the sun casting long shadows over the ranch. Ben chanted and performed rituals, using sage and other herbs to cleanse the land. The air was thick with the scent of burning sage, and the atmosphere grew heavy with tension. As the ceremony reached its climax, we heard the Skinwalkers howling in the distance. The ground shook, and the air grew cold. But Ben continued, his voice steady and unwavering. Finally, with the final chant, the ceremony was complete. The air grew still, and a sense of peace washed over the ranch. The Skinwalkers were gone, driven away by the power of the ceremony. The curse had been lifted, and the ranch was free from their malevolent presence. In the days that followed, the activity on the ranch ceased. The strange noises, the shadows, the mutilated animals all stopped. The evidence we had gathered was undeniable, and our encounter with the Skinwalkers had changed us forever. For me, the experience was a profound reminder of the power of legend and the mysteries that still exist in our world. The Skinwalkers were not just creatures of myth, but real and dangerous beings. As I returned to my work as a journalist, I carried with me the memory of that chilling encounter, a testament to the enduring power of legend and the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Emily Patterson, and I am an author specializing in American folklore. My research has taken me to various parts of the country, but none as mysterious and chilling as the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. This dense forest is home to one of the most infamous creatures in American legend, the Jersey Devil. The legend of the Jersey Devil dates back to the early 1700s, when a woman named Mother Lees, pregnant with her 13th child, cursed the unborn baby in a fit of despair, proclaiming it would be the devil. According to the legend, the child was born with hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and a forked tail. It let out a blood-curdling scream and flew up the chimney, disappearing into the Pine Barrens, where it has haunted the area ever since. I had always been fascinated by this legend, and when I received a tip about recent sightings of the creature, I knew I had to investigate. I packed my bags and headed to the small town of Leeds Point, the epicenter of the Jersey Devil legend. The town was quaint, with a population of friendly but wary residents who had grown up hearing stories of the beast that lurked in the woods. My first stop was the local library, where I met Sarah, the town historian. She was an elderly woman with a sharp mind and a deep knowledge of the area's folklore. Sarah welcomed me with a warm smile and a stack of old books and newspaper clippings about the Jersey Devil. Many people have claimed to see the Jersey Devil over the years, she said, her voice tinged with both skepticism and belief. But no one has ever been able to prove its existence. The Pine Barrens are a vast and mysterious place, and the devil has plenty of places to hide. Sarah shared with me stories of strange encounters, a farmer who found his livestock mutilated, a group of hunters who were chased out of the woods by a winged creature, and a couple who saw the devil perched on their roof, staring at them with glowing red eyes. The accounts were varied, but the fear and conviction in the voices of those who told them were unmistakable. Determined to find evidence of the Jersey Devil, I enlisted the help of a local guide, named Jack, who had spent his entire life exploring the Pine Barrens. Jack was a rugged outdoorsman, skeptical of the legend, but intrigued by the challenge of finding the creature. We packed our gear and headed into the forest, the thick canopy of trees casting long shadows over the winding trails. The Pine Barrens were an eerie place, filled with twisted trees, murky swamps, and an unsettling silence that seemed to amplify every rustle and snap of twigs. Jack and I set up camp near a clearing known for sightings of the Jersey Devil. We placed cameras and motion sensors around the area, hoping to capture any sign of the creature. As night fell, the forest came alive with the sounds of nocturnal animals. We took turns keeping watch, our senses on high alert. Around midnight, we heard a distant scream, a chilling, unearthly sound that echoed through the trees. My heart pounded in my chest as we grabbed our flashlights and followed the sound. We moved cautiously through the underbrush, the beam of our flashlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, we saw a figure darting between the trees, too fast and agile to be human. The creature was tall and thin, with bat-like wings and glowing red eyes. It moved with a supernatural speed, disappearing into the shadows before we could get a clear look. We followed its trail to a small clearing, where we found claw marks on the trees and strange, hoof-like tracks on the ground. The evidence was compelling, but we needed more. We decided to set up more cameras and motion sensors in the area, determined to capture definitive proof of the Jersey Devil's existence. The following night, we were awakened by the sound of our sensors going off. We rushed to the monitors and saw the creature on the screen, its form illuminated by the infrared cameras. It moved with an eerie grace, its wings unfurling as it leapt into the air. We watched in awe and fear as it flew out of frame, disappearing into the night. We spent the next few days combing through the footage and analyzing the tracks we had found. The evidence was compelling, but we needed a closer encounter. Jack suggested we venture deeper into the Pine Barrens, to a place known as the Devil's Lair, a remote area rumored to be the creature's home. We set out early in the morning, navigating through dense underbrush and treacherous swamps. The deeper we went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The trees seemed to close in around us, their gnarled branches forming a twisted canopy that blocked out the sun. The air grew thick with the scent of decay, and the silence was punctuated only by the occasional cry of a distant bird. After hours of trekking, we arrived at the Devil's Lair clearing, surrounded by ancient, twisted trees. The ground was littered with bones, both animal and human, and the air was filled with a palpable sense of dread. We set up our equipment and prepared for what we hoped would be our final encounter with the Jersey Devil. As night fell, we took our positions, our eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The hours passed slowly, the tension building with each passing moment. Suddenly, we heard its same chilling scream that had haunted us before. We turned our flashlights towards the sound, and there it was, Jersey Devil, standing at the edge of the clearing. The creature was more terrifying up close. It stood over 7 feet tall, with leathery wings and a goat-like head. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its mouth was filled with sharp, glistening teeth. It stared at us, its gaze filled with a malevolent intelligence. Jack and I stood frozen, the fear paralyzing us. The Jersey Devil let out another scream, and leapt towards us, its wings unfurling as it took to the air. We scrambled to defend ourselves, shining our flashlights in its direction. The light seemed to disorient the creature, and it veered off course, crashing into the trees, before disappearing into the darkness. We reviewed the footage, our hands trembling with adrenaline. We had captured the Jersey Devil on camera, its form clear and unmistakable. The evidence was undeniable, and we knew we had to share our findings with the world. We returned to Leeds Point and presented our footage to the local authorities and media. The reaction was a mix of disbelief and awe. Many were skeptical, but the evidence was compelling. The legend of the Jersey Devil had been validated, and the world was captivated by our discovery. For me, the experience was a profound reminder of the power of legend and the mysteries that still exist in our world. The Jersey Devil was not just a creature of myth, but a real and terrifying being that had haunted the Pine Barrens for centuries. As I returned to my work as an author, I carried with me the memory of that chilling encounter, a testament to the enduring power of legend and the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Sarah Lawson, and I am an anthropologist specializing in indigenous folklore. My work often takes me to remote and isolated places, but none as eerie and foreboding as the deep forests of the Great Lakes region. My latest research brought me face to face with one of the most terrifying legends of Native American culture, the Wendigo. The legend of the Wendigo is rooted in the folklore of the Algonquin-speaking tribes. According to the legend, the Wendigo is a malevolent spirit that possesses humans, driving them to commit acts of cannibalism and transforming them into monstrous creatures. These creatures are insatiably hungry, constantly seeking human flesh to consume. Their bodies emaciated and gaunt, despite their gluttony. I first heard about the Wendigo from a colleague, who recounted chilling stories of encounters with the creature in the dense forests of Minnesota. Intrigued and somewhat skeptical, I decided to investigate further. I packed my bags and traveled to a small town called Pine River, nestled on the edge of a vast and ancient forest known for its history of mysterious disappearances and strange occurrences. Upon arriving in Pine River, I was met with a mixture of curiosity and wariness from the locals. The townspeople were friendly enough, but when I mentioned the Wendigo, their expressions darkened, and they quickly changed the subject. It was clear that the legend held a deep and terrifying grip on the community. I managed to find a local guide named Thomas, a retired park ranger who had spent his entire life exploring the forests around Pine River. Thomas was a grizzled, no-nonsense man, with a deep knowledge of the land and its secrets. Despite his skepticism about the Wendigo, he agreed to take me into the forest and help with my research. We set out early one morning, the sky overcast and the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. As we trekked deeper into the forest, Thomas shared stories of the Wendigo, passed down through generations of his family. He spoke of a creature that moved silently through the trees, its presence heralded by a feeling of dread and an icy chill in the air. According to Thomas, the Wendigo was once human, driven to cannibalism by the harsh winters and scarcity of food. Consumed by hunger and madness, they transformed into the Wendigo, a creature cursed to roam the forest, forever seeking human flesh to sate its insatiable hunger. As we ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The trees seemed to close in around us, their branches forming a dense canopy that blocked out the sunlight. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence settled over the forest, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant cry of a bird. We set up camp near a clearing that Thomas said was known for strange occurrences. We placed cameras and motion sensors around the area, hoping to capture any signs of the Wendigo. As night fell, the forest seemed to come alive, with unseen eyes watching our every move. Around midnight, we heard the first sign of activity, a distant, mournful wail that echoed through the trees. It was a sound that chilled me to the bone, filled with an otherworldly sorrow and hunger. Thomas and I grabbed our flashlights and followed the sound, our hearts pounding with fear and anticipation. As we moved through the forest, the air grew colder, and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over us. Suddenly, we saw a figure moving between the trees, its form barely visible in the darkness. The creature was tall and emaciated, its skin stretched tightly over its bones. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its mouth was filled with sharp, jagged teeth. The Wendigo let out another wail, and before we could react, it lunged at us with a speed and ferocity that was terrifying. We stumbled back, our flashlights casting frantic beams of light as we tried to fend off the creature. Thomas fired his rifle, but the Wendigo seemed unfazed, disappearing into the darkness with a guttural growl. We returned to camp, shaken and breathless from the encounter. Reviewing the footage, we saw that we had captured the Wendigo on camera, its gaunt form and glowing eyes unmistakable. The evidence was undeniable, had encountered the legendary Wendigo. Determined to understand more about the creature, we sought out a local elder named Mary, a respected member of the Ojibwe tribe. Mary welcomed us into her home, her eyes filled with wisdom and a deep connection to the land and its stories. She listened intently as we recounted our encounter, nodding thoughtfully. "The Wendigo is a powerful and malevolent spirit," she explained, her voice calm and measured. "It is a warning of the dangers of greed and unchecked hunger. Those who fall under its curse are doomed to a life of endless suffering, driven by an insatiable need to consume human flesh." Mary told us that the Wendigo could only be defeated through a ritual cleansing, a ceremony that would require the combined efforts of the tribe's spiritual leaders. She warned us that the Wendigo was not to be underestimated, and that any attempt to confront it would be fraught with danger. Despite the risks, Thomas and I decided to proceed with the ritual. We gathered the necessary materials and returned to the forest, guided by Mary's instructions. The ceremony took place at dawn, the first light of the sun casting long shadows over the clearing. We chanted and performed the rituals, using sacred herbs and symbols to cleanse the area. As the ritual reached its climax, we heard the Wendigo's wail once more, echoing through the trees with a terrifying intensity. The ground shook, and the air grew colder, but we continued, our resolve unbroken. Finally, with the final chant, the ritual was complete. The air grew still, and a sense of peace washed over the forest. The Wendigo's presence had been banished, its curse lifted by the power of the ritual. The forest was once again a place of tranquility, free from the malevolent spirit that had haunted it for centuries. In the days that followed, the activity in the forest ceased. The strange noises, the sightings, the feeling of dread vanished. The evidence we had gathered was undeniable, and our encounter with the Wendigo had changed us forever. For me, the experience was a profound reminder of the power of legend and the deep connection between humans and the natural world. The Wendigo was not just a creature of myth, but a symbol of the dangers of unchecked greed and hunger. As I returned to my work as an anthropologist, I carried with me the memory of that chilling encounter, a testament to the enduring power of legend and the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Mark Henderson, and I am an investigative journalist with a penchant for exploring cryptid sightings and urban legends. My latest assignment took me to the small town of Loveland, Ohio, where I intended to investigate the legend of the Loveland Frogman. The story of the Loveland Frogman dates back to 1955, when a businessman claimed to have seen several human-like, frog-like creatures with leathery skin and webbed hands and feet along the Little Miami River. The creatures were said to be around 3 to 4 feet tall, standing erect, and had deep, wrinkled skin. The businessman reported that one of the creatures held a wand-like device that emitted sparks. This tale, bizarre as it was, intrigued me greatly. I arrived in Loveland on a brisk autumn day. The town, nestled along the river, had a quaint charm, with its small shops and friendly locals. Yet, when I mentioned the frogman, I was met with nervous laughter and dismissive comments. It seemed the legend was a touchy subject, treated more as a quirky local myth than a genuine mystery. My first lead came from an old newspaper clipping I found at the local library. It described a police officer's encounter with the frogman in 1972. The officer, while driving, claimed to have seen a large, frog-like creature on the road. He drew his gun and fired at the creature, which then leapt over the guardrail and vanished into the river. Determined to uncover the truth, I sought out the retired officer, now living a quiet life on the outskirts of town. Officer Williams was initially reluctant to speak about his encounter, but after some persuasion, he opened up. "I know what I saw," he said, his eyes distant with the memory. "It wasn't an animal. It stood upright, like a man, but its skin was like that of a frog. Its eyes, they were intelligent, almost human." Williams led me to the site of his encounter, a secluded stretch of road near the river. The area was dense with foliage, the river's murky waters barely visible through the thick underbrush. As we stood there, Williams pointed to the spot where he had seen the creature. "It was right there," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I never saw it again, but I'll never forget that night." Intrigued and slightly unnerved, I decided to spend the night by the river, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive creature. I set up a small camp, complete with motion sensors and night vision cameras, and settled in for a long night. The hours passed slowly, the sounds of the forest and the gentle flow of the river providing a soothing backdrop. Around midnight, just as I was starting to doze off, I heard a splash. My heart pounded as I grabbed my flashlight and scanned the riverbank. The beam of light caught a pair of glowing eyes reflecting back at me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. There, standing at the edge of the water, was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. It was tall, with leathery, greenish skin, and large, protruding eyes. Its webbed hands and feet were visible in the flashlight's beam, and it stood erect, watching me with an eerie calmness. The creature made no move towards me, instead turning and disappearing into the water with a graceful leap. I stood there, stunned, my mind racing to comprehend what I had just witnessed. It was real. The Loveland Frogman was real. The next morning, I reviewed the footage from my cameras. The images were grainy, but they clearly showed the creature standing by the river. I knew I had found something extraordinary, something that needed further investigation. I decided to explore the riverbank more thoroughly, hoping to find some physical evidence of the creature's existence. As I searched the area, I found strange tracks leading into the waterweb footprints, unlike any animal I had ever seen. Excited by my discovery, I collected samples and took photographs, determined to gather as much evidence as possible. My investigation led me to an old, dilapidated building on the outskirts of town. According to local lore, the building had once been a research facility, abandoned decades ago under mysterious circumstances. I couldn't shake the feeling that the frogman was somehow connected to this place. I managed to gain access to the building, my flashlight casting eerie shadows on the crumbling walls. Inside, I found old laboratory equipment, stacks of yellowed papers, and dusty filing cabinets. As I sifted through the documents, I uncovered reports of genetic experiments and mutations evidence that scientists had been conducting secret research on amphibians. One report in particular caught my eye. It detailed an experiment involving the splicing of human and amphibian DNA, aiming to create a hybrid species capable of surviving in harsh environments. The report mentioned a series of test subjects, all of whom had perished, except for one. My heart raced as I realized the implications of what I had found. The Loveland Frogman was not just a cryptid, it was a product of a long-abandoned experiment, a living testament to the dangers of playing with nature. Determined to uncover the full truth, I reached out to Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the scientist who had led the experiment. Now retired and living in seclusion, Dr. Harper was initially hesitant to speak with me. However, she eventually agreed to meet, her conscience weighed down by years of silence. We met at her secluded cabin, surrounded by thick woods. Dr. Harper was a frail, elderly woman, but her eyes still held a sharp intelligence. She recounted the details of the experiment, her voice filled with regret. "We were trying to create a new species," she explained. "A being that could adapt to both land and water, capable of surviving in a changing world. But we didn't fully understand the consequences of our actions. The creature we created was more intelligent and more human than we anticipated. It escaped the facility, and we were forced to abandon the project." Dr. Harper revealed that the creature had been living in the river ever since, avoiding human contact and surviving in the wild. She expressed deep remorse for her role in its creation, but she also believed that the frogman was a testament to scientific curiosity and the unintended consequences of pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Armed with this new information, I returned to Loveland, determined to document the full story of the frogman. I spent weeks gathering evidence, interviewing locals, and piecing together the fragments of the creature's history. My work culminated in a comprehensive article that not only confirmed the existence of the Loveland frogman, but also revealed the dark secrets behind its creation. The publication of my article caused a sensation. The world was captivated by the story of the Loveland frogman, a creature born from scientific ambition and living proof of the unintended consequences of tampering with nature. While many remained skeptical, the evidence I had gathered was undeniable. For me, the investigation was a profound journey into the unknown, a reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world. The Loveland frogman was not just a legend, but a living being, a symbol of the delicate balance between science and nature. As I continued my work as an investigative journalist, I carried with me the memory of that eerie night by the Rivera, testament to the enduring power of legend and the secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of our world. My name is Dr. Evelyn Carter, a primatologist dedicated to the study of undiscovered and elusive primates. My career has taken me to some of the most remote and untouched corners of the globe, but nothing could have prepared me for what I encountered in the dense jungles of Sumatra. The creature known as the orang-pendek, or short person, is a legend among the locals. But I was determined to find out if there was any truth behind the myth. The orang-pendek is said to be a small, bipedal primate, standing around 3 to 5 feet tall, with a human-like face, a robust build, and covered in short, dark hair. Reports of the creature have persisted for centuries, with sightings from local villagers, plantation workers, and even Dutch colonists. Despite the numerous accounts, no concrete evidence has ever been documented, making it one of the most intriguing cryptids in existence. My journey began in the small village of Kerinci, nestled at the foot of Mount Kerinci, the highest volcano in Indonesia. The villagers were friendly and welcoming, but when I mentioned the orang-pendek, their faces took on a serious and reverent expression. They spoke of the creature with a mixture of fear and respect, describing it as a guardian of the forest, a being that should not be disturbed. I enlisted the help of a local guide named Arif, who had spent his entire life exploring the jungles around Kerinci. Arif was knowledgeable and experienced, with a deep respect for the forest and its mysteries. Together, we planned an expedition into the heart of the jungle, hoping to find evidence of the elusive orang-pendek. Our journey began at dawn, the air thick with humidity and the sounds of the jungle awakening around us. We trekked through dense foliage, crossing rivers and navigating steep slopes. The jungle was alive with the calls of birds and the rustling of unseen creatures, a vibrant and chaotic symphony that reminded me of the complexity and beauty of nature. As we ventured deeper into the jungle, Arif shared stories of his own encounters with the orang-pendek. He described seeing a small, ape-like figure moving swiftly through the trees, its movements fluid and graceful. According to Arif, The orang-pendek was incredibly elusive, avoiding human contact and blending seamlessly into its surroundings. After several days of trekking, we set up a base camp near a river, a location known for frequent sightings of the creature. We placed camera traps and motion sensors around the area, hoping to capture any signs of the orang-pendek. The nights were filled with anticipation, the sounds of the jungle providing an eerie backdrop to our vigil. On the third night, just as the moon reached its peak, we heard a rustling in the underbrush. Arif and I exchanged a glance, our hearts pounding with excitement and trepidation. We grabbed our flashlights and crept towards the source of the sound, moving as silently as possible. There, standing at the edge of the clearing, was a figure unlike anything I had ever seen. The creature was small, no more than 4 feet tall, with a robust, muscular build, and covered in short, dark hair. Its face was strikingly human, with intelligent eyes that seemed to study us with curiosity. The orang-pendek stood there for a moment, as if assessing whether we were a threat. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, it vanished into the jungle, leaving us breathless and awestruck. We had seen it. Legendary orang-pendek was real. The next morning, we reviewed the footage from our camera traps. The images were clear and undeniable, showing the small, bipedal creature moving through the jungle. We had captured proof of the orang-pendek, evidence that would change the scientific community's understanding of primates and cryptids. Determined to learn more about the creature, Arif and I decided to follow the orang-pendek's trail. The journey was arduous, the jungle dense and unforgiving, but our determination drove us forward. As we tracked the creature, we found signs of its presence: broken branches, footprints, and remnants of its meals. One evening, as we were setting up camp, we heard a series of low, guttural calls echoing through the jungle. Arif identified the calls as those of the orang-pendek, communicating with others of its kind. We realized that the creature was not alone. There was a population of orang-pendek living in the depths of the jungle. Over the next few weeks, we observed the orang-pendek from a distance, documenting their behavior and interactions. They were incredibly intelligent and social, using tools and displaying complex communication patterns. It was clear that they were a distinct species, a unique and undiscovered primate that had managed to elude scientific discovery for centuries. Our expedition was a groundbreaking success. We gathered extensive evidence, including photographs, videos, and samples of hair and scat. The scientific community was astounded by our findings, and the orang-pendek quickly became the focus of intense research and conservation efforts. For me, the discovery of the orang-pendek was a profound reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world. Despite our advancements in science and technology, there are still creatures and phenomena that remain hidden, waiting to be discovered. The orang-pendek was not just a legend, but a living testament to the wonders of nature and the endless possibilities that lie beyond our understanding. As I returned to my work as a primatologist, I carried with me the memory of that incredible encounter. The orang-pendek had not only changed the course of my career, but had also deepened my appreciation for the natural world and its countless secrets. Our planet is a place of endless wonder, and the discovery of the orang-pendek is a reminder that there is always more to learn, more to explore, and more to protect.